The authors of the New Testament are Arius Calpurnius Piso, his son Fabius Justus, and his granddaughter's husband, Pliny the Younger. All of these people played many parts in the play. The family also put their friends into the story. Justus inserted Cornelius Tacitus, the Roman historian. Piso, his sons, and Pliny moved through the New Testament under various names. In the Gospels, starting with Matthew, Jesus, Josephus, has basically only 3 disciples: John, James, and Simon Peter. All the other 9 disciples are shadowy alter egos of these 3. The 3 arc really is 3 sons: Julius, Justus, and Proculus. Inserted into the first Gospel, which was the Gospel of Mark, which no longer exists, when they were still little boys. In addition, his 4th son, Alexander, appears as the 4th but less important disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter. When Piso plays Joseph, the 3 main disciples are his 3 real sons and Jesus is his literal son. Then when Piso plays Jesus, his sons became Jesus' brothers. Thus, Yeshua has 4 brothers, Matthew 13:55, who are really sons including Alexander. The father plays all the Josephs. First he is Joseph the carpenter, and later he is Joseph of Arimathea who buries Jesus. Joseph the carpenter drops from the story when Jesus starts his ministry because Piso cannot be in the story as 2 main roles simultaneously. Then Joseph reappears after the crucifixion to bury his literal son. Then in Acts of the Apostles, he reappears as Joseph the Levite, whose name is quickly changed to Barnabas, Acts 4:36. Thus he plays both the Son, Jesus, and the Father, Joseph the carpenter, and God. The Father and the Son were in fact one. Justus was his father's main successor. He also takes Moses' sister named Miriam and had put it over Mary's name. He also added a female Elijah called Elizabeth. A few years later, around the year 105 CE, Justus writes the Gospel of John. Shortly after writing the Gospel of John in 105 CE, and playing the lead Jesus in it, Justus under the name of Paul, assisted by his son Julianus, writes the Epistle to the Colossians. And in it, they refer to Justus as Jesus, who is called Justus. The family began writing the Acts of the Apostles. So far, they have a hero who says he comes only to the lost sheep of Israel. Now they need a second hero, someone who Yeshua will instruct from heaven to open the new faith to the non-Jews. Justus will start that story and create and play the part of the new spokesman Paul. Between 100 CE and 105 CE, while they were writing the Epistle and the Gospel of John, the Pisos were creating the birth of the Christian church. Justus, his father, Pliny, their family and friends traveled to Bithynia, Pontus, the province of Asia, the Greek cities and elsewhere to create the Christian churches and to gather the slaves and poor people into their new faith. Pliny created the first churches in Bithynia and Pontus initiated about 100 CE, once Acts of the Apostles was completed. As stated earlier, the church was a creation of the Calpurnius Piso family. The poor people were enjoying the Christians' education graciously. So the family decided to have free Christian schools to assist them in converting the poor to the new faith. By now you should understand that Josephus was really Calpurnius Piso and that he was the founder and author of the Jesus story. Joseph wrote himself as the Father, as Jesus, as his 3 sons and as the 3 main disciples. Calpurnius Piso inserted himself and his family repeatedly by numbers and other methods into the Gospels. He was the leader of the play and had most of the important parts because he wanted to have power over the Jews. So now you see, the whole Jesus story is fake and so is the Christian doctrine. My children, allow me to produce these facts and lay them forth before your eyes that you may know right knowledge, allowing yourself to become like those disciples in Yeshua's time, spreading facts throughout the world so that others may know the truth, and it may make them free. I, your Pharaoh or Ephraim, Amanubi Ruiktes Netter, Ephraim Autumn Re have come again for a renewal of your story, not his story. One like me is sent every 100 years to reform. I have come bearing a 2-edged sword that I may cut up lies, so that all falsehood will perish. Let me explain for all of those people who see that the whole Bible was a play that was plagiarized by the Pisos, and that it is nothing but a story. Now before your eyes I will relay to you the true story of the Messiah Yeshua, mistakenly called Jesus, whom the Neteru had sent 2,000 years ago. The Messiah Yeshua speaks forth to you. I, Messiah Yeshua, have sent my Neteru, the Anunnaki, the Nomo, the Eluls, those who Anu sent from heaven to Ta, earth, to testify to you all these incidents in the congregation. These Neteru, the Anunnaki, the Nomo, the Eluls, it is these 4 ancient and supreme races of beings who are responsible for bringing the Homo sapien into existence and clicking on the light called Ba-Sol, which is that state of expression. I am the descendant and of the same race as the beloved and the Lamb and the early star. And the soul of the bride says, Come, and let him that hear say, Come. And those who are thirsty, so let them come, and as for him who wants, so let him take of the water of life freely. For surely, I bear witness to all who hear the words of this prophecy in this scroll. If anyone adds to these things, so honor he who is above. The Heavenly One will add to him the plagues of the things written in this scroll. If anyone takes away from the words of the scroll of this prophecy, honor he who is above. The Heavenly One will drop his share from the scroll of life and from the holy city. And from what is written in this scroll. The witness says this, Yes, surely, I am coming soon. Amen. Come on, Messiah Yeshua. The grace of our Rabbi, the Messiah Yeshua, be with you all. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Adonai hath promised them that love him. Yeshua showed me the water of a river, of which is the water of life, glittering as crystal, coming out from the seed of Yaa-Nun. He who is above. The Heavenly One of El-Elo and Tammuz, the Lamb. In the middle of what looked like a market street of it, and on both sides of the river, was a tree of life which gives 12 fruits every month, and the leaves in the tree were to heal all nations. All who were cursed did not exist anymore, but the scat of Anu, he who is above, the Heavenly One, and Tammuz, the Lamb in it, and his servants who serve him. They will see his face, and his name is in their foreheads. There won't be shadow hours there, and no need of light from a lamp, nor any light from the sun, because of the illumination to them, and they will rule forever. And he said to me, that these words are faithful, and are facts beyond any doubt, and the Adonai, the Theos, of the souls of the newsbearer sent his Anunnaki, those who Anu sent from heaven to earth, to teach his servants, that which must come about soon. This is it. I'm coming soon. Blessed is he who guards the words of this prophecy in this volume. And I, the newsbearer John son of Zebedee, saw and heard these things. And after I had heard and seen, I fell down to prostrate in front of the feet of the Neteru, who was the one who showed me all this. So he said to me, Don't do that, because I am a servant like you, and like your brothers the newsbearer, and those who guard the words prophesied in this scroll. So prostration is for Anu, he who is from above, the Heavenly One only. And he said to me, Don't seal the words of the prophecies in this scroll, because the time is near. As for him who is in ignorance, so leave him in ignorance also. And he who is defiled, so let him be defiled also. And he who is righteous, then let him be righteous also, and the holy, so let him be holy also. Here I come, I am coming soon, and my reward is with me, in order to reward everyone according to all they have done. I am the first letter and the last letter, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they who wash their robes in the blood of the Lamb, so that there may exist authority over the tree of life, and may enter into the city by way of its doors. And outside are dogs, sorcerers and fornicators, and killers, and those who serve idols, and everyone who loves to do nothing but lie. Many people believe that Jesus Christ looks like a Caucasian with blonde hair and blue eyes. However, the Bible describes him as a Moor, having brass burnt skin, woolly lamb's hair, and African features, as the original Tammuz Egyptian. Establishing the lineage of a person determines what race he or she is. Let's look at the lineage of Jesus' mother, Mary, who was told to hide her baby in Tammuz, Egypt, amongst the Tammuz Egyptians, who were dark-skinned people called Hamites. Commit. Mary was the daughter of Joachim, son of Mathan and Anna. Both of her parents were descendants of the tribe of Judah, who was the son Jacob, and Jacob was the son of Abraham, the Chaldean, Syrian, a dark-skinned people. Many people think that the image of Jesus Christ came from one of the biblical descriptions of him. The fact is, nowhere in the scriptures will you find a description of the Messiah Jesus Christ seen today, having blonde hair and blue eyes. However, in the biblical books or Revelation and Daniel, it gives a description of Jesus Christ as you call him. If one wants to know what Yeshua really looked like, the great prophet Daniel recorded it this way in Daniel 7-9, gives a description of Yeshua, and I quote, While I was looking, thrones were put in place. One who had been living forever sat down on one of the thrones. His clothes were white as snow, and his hair was like pure wool. His throne, mounted on fiery wheels, was blazing with fire. This is recorded and believed to be the description of the Ancient of Days, known to be Melchizedek, yet believed to be Yeshua. Revelation 1:14-15 of the King James Version of the Holy Bible also gives a description of Yeshua, and I quote, His head and his hairs were white like wool, as well as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feel like undefined brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. These descriptions are describing Jesus. Hair like wool, eyes of fire, and feet, skin, of burned brass are all dark-skinned people. Also his brother Simeon is called Niger, black, in Acts 1:13. So why are most pictures of Jesus the total opposite? Racism. This great being had 9 ether, woolly or kingly hair texture. But the Greeks are responsible for this great deception. They altered words from their places as they translated from the Aramaic to the Greek, which gave you your Mies English translation. Read, in the scroll of Revelation, the first degree verses 14 through 15, you can see how the Greeks mistranslated the description of Yeshua. It reads, his head and his hairs were white like wool. This is the point of deception. The implication here is that there was a white glow that was around his head and his hair was like white wool. However, wool coming from the sheep can also be brown and black. Also, Revelation's story was taken from Daniel's story, for Revelation was revealed in 96 AD and Daniel's was revealed in 536 BCE, many thousands of years before. It's Daniel's clearly states, and his hair was like pure wool. Back to Revelation. Reads, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like undefined brass, as if they burned in a furnace. And his voice as the sound of many waters. Without the intentional alteration of the texture of his hair, the scroll of Daniel makes it plain that he had woolly hair. The rest of Revelation describes a person who has red eyes. Not the pupil but the sclera, common in Nubian. More, people only. Again it states that his feet were like fine brass. That would be polished brass. Brass is a combination of 50% copper, which is reddish brown in color, and zinc, a dullish gray. This combination would produce a brownish color. But Revelation says these same brass feet had the appearance of being burned. That would mean that it was not a brass color any longer, but brass after it had been burned. This would produce a very dark hue. At this point we have 3 clear descriptions of Yeshua. He had woolly hair, the sclera of his eyes were red, and his feet, which are attached to the rest of his body, are burned to a dark complexion. And they proceed to describe his voice as having the sound of many waters. Which again describes a very common Nubian characteristic, a raspy voice. He stood 6 feet in height. He was medium build but often appeared very thin from strict fasting. He grew a full beard. As he is described in Isaiah's scroll reads, he hath no form nor comeliness, and we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He was tall, dark but not handsome. This is a description of Yeshua HaMashiach of 2,000 years ago. For far too long the issue of what race Yeshua, Jesus, has popped up, yet went unanswered. With the new and many faces of what everyone is calling the real Yeshua being plastered in every church around the world, I felt the necessity to straighten out the lies. Christians all over the world say that the racial identity of Yeshua is not the principal issue in Christianity. However, if this is so, why was the Messiah Yeshua of 2,000 years ago always depicted as a typical Caucasian hippie-like man with shoulder-length hair, full beard, and an aquiline nose? Although there are many depictions of the Messiah Yeshua drawn by black artists who have decided that the Messiah Yeshua was black, it wasn't until recently that your preachers, teachers, reverends, pastors etc. began to acknowledge them in their churches. Now all of a sudden, people all over the world want to give you their portrayal of what Yeshua looked like. If race is not the issue, then there should not be any pictures of Yeshua. Just as in Islam you will find pictures of the Prophet Muhammad son of Abdullah and Amina, as well as in Judaism you will find pictures and statues of the Prophet Moses. However, the pale Arabs are guilty of perpetrating racism in Islam because they portray Muhammad's family and close companions as having pale skin. So, subliminally they project him as being pale also. They always make a point to show you that Bilal son of Rabah and Hamama as being the black man that calls everyone to prayer. Even though they say that they have no pictures in Ireland, I found these pictures after the release of the Christ series scrolls back in the year 1988 AD. Isn't it strange how anyone considered great or important is always depicted as pale? And all dark people are evil. Also ponder on this for a second. Why is it that in every instance of what the Luciferian projects as a good guy / bad guy image, the bad guy is always depicted with dark colored hair and dark clothing? Why must everything dark be depicted as bad? Because this is just another part of the spell to keep you spellbound into making you believe that his image is superior to yours. When I explained in several of my scrolls that Yeshua was a Nubian, I became a blasphemer. Now there are articles popping up everywhere stating that Yeshua was black. Nowadays you have different reverends coming out with pictures of a black Jesus, such as Archbishop George Augustus Stallings of the African American Catholic Congregation, based in Washington, D.C. in 1993 AD. Archbishop George Augustus Stallings, Jr., founder of the Imani Temple, stated in a newspaper entitled The Last Trump on page 38, that they had a God-given right to worship their God in their own time. No longer would they worship the God of their oppressor. We refuse to worship a white God in a black house. then printed in a more recent paper called New Dimensions published in Washington, D.C. He initially used my picture as a depiction of the Black Jesus whom he has never claimed to be. On the front cover of their newspaper entitled News Dimensions, October 23, 1992 AD edition, is the picture of me depicted as their Black Jesus. Archbishop George Augustus Stallings stated again that in the next year his congregation will remove all images of the pale man's version of Jesus and burn them, replacing them with the picture of the Lamb. Archbishop George Augustus Stallings, Jr. broke away from the Roman Catholic Church in June 1989 AD because of racism in the religion. And on November 10, 1991 AD, he opened the Imani Temple No. 35 in Los Angeles. He was later interviewed by Emerge News Magazine, Volume 6, Number 6, April 1995 AD. Stallings, whose interview is featured on page 22, was asked about his views on Jesus being black, and he says the following, and I quote, "If you look in Matthew, chapter 1-17, when you look at the 42 generations of Jesus, 4 women are mentioned in that chart. 3 out of the 4 are either Hittites or Canaanites, almost universally defined by biblical scholars as being dark-skinned black people. You have Tamar, you have Rahab, and Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah." Also Matthew, chapter 2, verse 15, where it says, "Out of Egypt have I called my son." How could it have been possible for a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, thin-nosed, thin-lipped, pale-faced baby to have been hidden among a land of black people in Egypt? Egypt, the name given to that country on the continent of Africa by Europeans, Egypt means black. Archbishop George Augustus Stallings, Jr. makes a truthful statement that Jesus was black. In a recent article by Daniel J. Lehman, entitled "Bishop Promotes Rise of Black Jesus," it states that Jesus will die today as a European image. Prominent black leaders are being led by Archbishop Stallings to reflect changes which were started decades ago. Archbishop Stallings' plan/X Good Friday dedicated to burning all images that depicts Jesus with European features, and to raise a likeness of an African Jesus. Churches worldwide have been urged to follow suit. The article goes on to say, and I quote, "The majority of church members have either displayed pictures of a brown or black Jesus or done away with portraits altogether." Speaking of racism in religion, Rev. Frederick K.C. Price is another black Rev, fighting the church over racism at age 66. Reverend Price is a televangelist and is the founder of the Crenshaw Christian Center in Los Angeles. In a January 1999 Emerge magazine entitled Race and Religion written by Rhonda B. Grum from pages 44 through 51, Rev. Price stated the following, "Religion has been the most flagrant perpetrator of racism in the world. In particular, the Christian Church in America has been the leader of racism in the world and partially in America." Reverend Dominic Crossan states that as a Mediterranean peasant of Jewish descent, "I suspect the real Jesus to be on the border between black and white, to be a brown-skinned man." According to Rev. Al Sampson of Fernwood United Methodist Church, a member of a biblical scholarship team, said that Jesus' ancestors came out of Egypt in Northeast Africa. In the St. Paul Insight News dated Tuesday, November 9, 1993 AD, an article written by Talek entitled "Jesus was an African, but early Africans did believe him to be the Son of God." It states that lately several ministers have published books using information developed by these very historians to prove Jesus, the Christ, was a black man. Some have made this information available for over 20 years. In the 1970s AD, Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan, Dr. Ben, wrote several books trying to prove this fact. Reverend Albert Clegg, author of The Black Messiah, in 1968 AD, in his church you can find a shrine of a black Madonna as well as ceiling paintings of Black Mary and baby Jesus. The author states, and I quote, "Accepting that the biblical Jesus is black is just half of the battle. Because we are still being taught European Christianity. Europeans decided the birthday of Jesus to be on December 25th. They decided he would be known as God, the Father, Son and Holy Ghost. His mother would be known as Mother of God, not the mother of Jesus, that she would have a virgin conception." This article also goes on to state that the Conference of Nicaea insisted certain books of the Bible would be taken out from the Bible, to mislead you into finding out what race Jesus was. It says, and I quote, "The Bible was a rewrite of a story that had been accepted in Africa thousands of years before the Christian era. Those who translated the story wrote in a part for themselves. Every human representation of God at the time was a man of color. In order to support the white Jesus myth, it became necessary for Europeans to insert themselves in biblical history at a time prior to their actual existence. Thus came the whitewashing of biblical history." Albert B. Clegg Jr., author of Black Christian Nationalism, states in his book, and I quote, "I believe that Jesus, the Black Messiah, was a revolutionary leader, sent by God to rebuild the black nation Israel and to liberate black people from powerlessness and from the oppression, brutality, and exploitation of the white Gentile world. In his other scroll entitled The Black Messiah, he states that, and I quote, "For nearly 500 years the illusion that Jesus was white dominated the world only because white Europeans dominated the world. Now, with the emergence of the nationalist movements of the world's colored majority, the historic truth is finally beginning to emerge that Jesus was the non-white leader or a non-white people. Black people cannot build dignity on their knees worshiping a white Christ. We must put down this white Jesus which the white man gave to us in slavery and which has been tearing us to pieces." Jesus was a revolutionary black leader. Ben Ami Ben Israel, Ben Ami Carter, a leader of the African Hebrew Israelite community of Jerusalem, states that Jesus was a black man, born in Bethlehem, and spent most of his infant life in Africa. He was of the lineage of David, whose ancestors were Hamitic people, Rahab, Boaz, Obed, the father of Jesse, who was the father of King David. What all of these black leaders are trying to do is get you to focus on the race issue of Yeshua, which will appeal to blacks that are tired of the racism and a white God that approves of their slavery and abuse. Soon all of these so-called black churches are going to be at war as to whose drawing of Yeshua is more likely to be or represent him. Because you weren't Christians back in Africa. And according to your own teachings, Christian missionaries brought the religion to Africa, and that includes Ethiopia. And if it was our natural religion, it would have been there with us. Nobody would have to bring it to us. Yeshua wouldn't have been bomb in the Middle East, he would have been bomb in Africa if he was a god for Africans. You are always eating the crumbs that the Luciferians tosses off his table. More titan half of them are not even Christians anymore, and you are still hanging on to the slave master's religion. Now they want to confuse Nuwabian children with this new black face of Yeshua, and they can't even get together on what face it's going to be. Look at this collage of what has popped up within the last 10 years. These black Christian leaders think that after 2,000 years they can just paint him black and that it is alright. After these subliminal pictures of a white Yeshua have been stamped in the minds of children, you'd have to make this a full-time effort to explain what Yeshua looked like, and all of you would have to agree on one story and one picture. And this doesn't help. It doesn't help because it doesn't do anything but confuse the children. Now they are forced to say, "Look mommy, a black Jesus." That is because in their subconscious mind, Jesus is Euro-American. It is the same as a black Santa Claus. Just by virtue of the fact that you have to say Santa is black is a confession that you think that he is Euro-American. The only reason you have to say black Jesus is because it means that in the subconscious mind you have already accepted that Jesus is a Euro-American. When most of these ministers were calling Yeshua, Jesus, black, they were, in their ministry, studying or being raised as ministers or sons and daughters of ministers, thinking that the Yeshua that they worshipped was the white Yeshua. This was stamped in their subconscious mind. They accepted it, they believed it, they taught it, they even worshipped this white image. Yet, now after the black rage of the 60s, say it loud, "I'm black and I'm proud," they want to pretend blackness while most of them belong to white dioceses or white ministries. They affiliate themselves with organizations who are cheered by white people. In order to prove that the Messiah Yeshua was a Nubian, more, it is essential to establish that the descendancy of a person determines what race he or she is. First, let's look at the descendancy of Yeshua mother Mary. Mary was the daughter of Joachim, who is called in tones Amram, and in rhythm Imran, who was the son of Mathan, and Hannah, Anna, whose husband had died during her pregnancy. Both of her parents were descendants of the tribe of Judah, the son of Jacob and Leah, the son of Isaac, son of Abraham. Mary's husband, Joseph, was also of the tribe of Judah, and of the lineage of David. Matthew 1:16, Psalms 132:11, Luke 1:32. Hannah, the mother of Mary, was the daughter of Dinah and Yanakir. Hannah was of the tribe of Asher, son of Jacob. Jesus' lineage chart can be traced through his mother Mary all the way back to the prophet David, whose son Solomon is described as having black bushy locks, hair and ivory skin. He was a Jew by race. Songs of Solomon 5:11-14. The lineage chart that you find in Matthew 1:1-16 and Luke 3:12-33 does not prove the lineage of the Messiah Jesus. They are showing you the lineage of Joseph, who was not his natural father. I repeat, nowhere in the scriptures will you find a description of the Messiah Yeshua having blonde, straight, goat-like hair. However, in Revelations 1:13-15, which can be found in Daniel 7:9, it describes an angel that is likened unto the Son of Man, which is Yeshua, as having hair like lamb's wool, as white as snow, and I quote, "And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they were burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters." In the Bible, descendancy has been determined by seed, meaning their physical offspring, by sexual intercourse. First let's go to Genesis 3:15, and you will see the Aramaic, Hebrew, word used for seed is zeh-re, meaning offspring, descendants, prosperity. Genesis 3:15. And I will arouse hatred in the midst of your descendants and Eve's, Nekebah's, descendants, your hate will be cunning and conniving as to approach from the lower heel as a snake when it bites, and their hate will be to bruise your heads. Right translation in Aramaic, Hebrew, Bai, Netter, Ephraite Autumnri. In Ashuric/Syriac, Arabic, there are two words frequently used in the Bible and the Quran to denote seed. 1. Nasi, noun, plural is progeny, offspring, issue, descendants. Genesis 3:15, Genesis 21:12. Nasala, verb, to beget, procreate, sire, father, reproduce. 2. Taria, progeny, descendants, children, offspring, Roman 1-3. Tari, of or pertaining to the offspring or progeny. Now if you go to the Greek language, you will find the word sperma and is defined as seed, issue. Romans 1:3. This is concerning his son Yeshua the Messiah, our master teacher, who was made by way of sperm of David according to the skin color. Right translation in Greek by Netter, Ephraite Autumnri. Zeh-re is used in this quote to confirm that the Messiah Jesus was a descendant of David, the son of Jesse, by blood. This same word is used in Genesis 21:12-15 when talking about the seed of Abraham. Genesis 21:12-15. And the Elohim said to Abraham, don't let it be disagreeable in your sight because of the lad, nor because of your slave woman, Hagar, and all that Sarah said to you. Listen to her voice, for in Isaac will your seed be proclaimed. And also of the son, Ishmael, of the slave woman, Hagar, will I make a Gentile nation, because he is also your seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and gave her the offspring, Ishmael, and sent her away, and she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba well of the 7th oath. And the water in the bottle was gone, and she, Hagar, cast the child, Ishmael, under one of the shrubs. Right translation in Aramaic, Hebrew, Bai, Netter, Ephraite Autumnri. The seed which it speaks about is the physical seed of the prophet Abraham, his son Isaac and his son Ishmael. Throughout the scriptures, we never find the Messiah Jesus identifying himself with his stepfather Joseph. Instead, he identifies with the prophet David, the son of Jesse. Revelation 22:16. I Yeshua have sent my messenger to testify to you all these incidents in the congregation. I am the descendant and of the same race as the beloved and the lamp and the early star. Right translation in Greek by Netter, Ephraite Autumnri. Now, let's look at the word offspring in the Greek language. You get the word genos and it means kind, kindred, offspring. In this quote the Ashuric/Syriac, Arabic, words being used are aslu for root meaning purest original and taria for offspring. Both of these words are being used in this verse to describe the descendancy of the Messiah Jesus, which shows that his race was undeniably Nubian. More. The first known paintings of the Messiah Jesus whom the Christians call Christ are dated no earlier than the 3rd century, 200 AD, and are found in Christian catacombs on the outskirts of ancient Rome. Catacombs are a plural noun for a series of underground chambers or tunnels with recesses for graves. The Christ of the catacombs painting was a humble shepherd, country, type lacking a distinct portrait-like features, performing miracles. What you are being taught is carefully planned out. The Luciferians are using the media as a means to saturate the public with white supremacy and moving people of color out of his story. I did not write this to offend anyone. I have given the members at Heliopolis, Thebes, and Memphis a host of pictures of people of the scriptures, including the Messiah Yeshua. The purpose was to stamp out the hippie image that had been implanted into your hearts and minds. Now, when someone mentions a biblical name you automatically see your own pictures. Yet, regardless of how much you try to push the Nubian Moorish image of Yeshua, you still see the image of the beast. This was not done for racist purposes. Yet, rather to break this evil hypnotic spell that has left you in total ignorance. We have outgrown the ignorance of racism because no one wins the race in racism. However, this will not prevent me from teaching you the facts because truth is truth. So, now you see that the Messiah Jesus was not a European, like the Jesus depicted on the cross in the 16th chapel of Michelangelo. He was unmistakably a dark-skinned Hebrew with kinky, kingly, hair, like many Jews have today. If there are any images to be made of the Messiah Jesus in this day and time, it should be based on the scriptures. Since there were no cameras or videos to capture his image and none of us were there to acknowledge how he looked, the book of Revelation is one of the books given to Jesus which describes his physical appearance. The first verse of Revelation confirms this. Therefore, The image of the Messiah Jesus should be patterned after Revelation 1:14-15 or Revelation 4:3. So I ask you, which of these pictures accurately portray Jesus as he is described in Revelation 1:14-15 and Daniel 7:9? It really does not and should not matter what color Jesus was, or how he was portrayed. We should keep in mind the idea of what he did and stood for to all mankind. Within each racial group of people, there should be an image of Jesus that represents that specific culture or no culture at all. It hurts when our children develop inferiority complexes from only seeing the man most loved in the world as a Caucasian, because it is not a representation of who they are. All the children that second Jesus Christ, the Savior, should also see themselves. The only good that can come out is self-love.